So on this episode, I am going to show you how to legally, literally ruin your opponent's cards. And I do mean legally in a Magic sense where, hey, with the rules, you can actually ruin your opponent's cards because, well, we'll get into exactly why. Before we do that, though, a massive disclaimer. Do not actually do this unless your playgroup, for whatever reason, is 100% okay and on board with this. Again, while it is a legal Magic play, what I'm about to show you is also an incredibly rude, mean, terrible, awful thing to do. And you should never do it unless those that you're playing with are okay with it, and I'm not sure why they would be. Really. Now, this episode came about because I was thinking to myself, for whatever reason, what's the actual meanest thing that you could do legally in a game of Magic, outside of, okay, stacks or mass land destruction, things that many playgroups out there are not okay with, but what is just objectively a terrible thing to do that you can still legally do within the rules? And yes, I should be blamed for this episode, but you also need to blame Eddie, blame Alec, blame Eric, blame my playgroup, because, well, they gave feedback on this concept to make sure that, as I was showing them the exact concept, whether it was legal or not. And so that helped iron out some of the things, and yeah, this is completely legal to do in a game of Magic. That being said, you should not do it. Unless, again, and I'm going to say this one more time, maybe even more than that in the episode, for whatever reason, your playgroup is okay with this, and I'm not sure why they would be. But now, with all that said, let's jump into it. So this concept came about because of a new card and a new kind of mechanic, which involves stickers and tickets. Bear with me, yes, this is going to get pretty ridiculous, but here we go. So Carnival Carnivore is a brand new card that is coming out in Unfinity in, I believe, October. That being said, it was revealed recently, and this is a bit of an interesting and unique card to say the least. It's a 4/6 Alien Crab Horror that has Death Touch that costs 5 and a black, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you get a ticket, then you may put a sticker on an online permanent you own. Now, this is a brand new kind of concept. Obviously, we've never seen, stickers or tickets in Magic before, but now we're seeing them, and it's actually a legal card in formats like Commander, all Eternal formats essentially. And again, with this new Unfinity set, instead of it being, silver border like previous unsets, now there is an acorn symbol at the bottoms of cards that are essentially then silver border. This one does not have an acorn symbol on it, so it is legal in Eternal formats. Now, I'm not going to go through extreme details on all the intricacies of, the stickers in these new kinds of cards, because, well, I already did that on another episode called, Wow, These Are Real. Or, Whoa, These Are Real, I guess, not wow. Regardless. But essentially, the concept we can see on Urza's Dark Cannonball, which is a sticker sheet that, yes, looks in the exact same shape as a Magic card, but these little things on it are stickers. Urza's is a sticker, Dark is a sticker, Cannonball's a sticker, that squirrel's a sticker, the hat's a sticker, that dead Gideon doll or whatever it is a sticker. The Exalted, thing is a sticker too, so Shadow, and so are those two power and toughness things at the bottom right, 1/5 or 7/4. So essentially you can peel those off the sticker sheet, and they utilize some kind of a sticky note glue, so you can basically stick it to something and then unstick it when you need to. That way it doesn't permanently go on a card, but yeah, you are putting these on cards, and specifically again, Carnival Carnivore does specify, and stickers in general are specifying, non-land permanent you own. And again, this is very specific, again, especially that you own part, because Wizards doesn't want you to be able to sticker your opponent's cards. Because again, your opponents might not be playing stickers, probably, intentionally, and they don't want to, sticker their Jace the Mind Sculptor and have it, lose any kind of value. Yeah, there are some really expensive cards out there, and yeah, most players out there probably are going to try to put stickers on them, even if those stickers can be taken off still. Because, again, of the way that this new sticker mechanic works, you aren't able to put it on your opponent's things because you don't own them. So even if, say, you gain control of your opponent's Jace the Mind Sculpt with Age of Treachery, cool, you control the card, but you don't own it, so you can't sticker it. Because, again, Wizards understands that, well, your opponent who has the Jace the Mind Sculptor probably doesn't want it stickered. I mean, and of course I could bring up a lot of other cards. I mean, Mana Crypt, Smothering Tithe, Dockside Extortionist. Yeah, expensive cards out there that see a lot of play, especially in a format like Commander. Your opponents probably don't want their cards stickered, so that's why Wizards made it in that way. Now, while at this point you might think that there's no way that we can actually sticker our opponents' things because of all of this, well, I just gotta tell you, there is a way, and actually we can sticker every single thing our opponents have. And I'm talking about everything. Literally everything. I mean, okay, when it comes to their Magic cards, but regardless, let's talk about how we're gonna do this. And actually, I will mention that a lot of other commanders can work for this kind of a concept, but the best one, in my opinion, is going to be Kenrith the Returned King, and that's for quite a few reasons. Regardless, Kenrith, or as I like to call him, Kenny, is a 5/5 human noble that costs 4 and a white that has a ton of abilities, so here we go. Pay a red, all creatures gain triple and haste until end of turn, pay 1 and a green, play +1 counter on target creature, pay 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life, pay 3 and a blue, target player draws a card, pay 4 and a black, put target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under its owner's control. Okay. You get all that? Good. So, Kenny can do a ton of things. Kenny is basically a Swiss Army knife of abilities, and yeah, there's a lot of very relevant ones with what we actually want to do with this deck. And the 3 that I'm going to highlight are actually the first one, the 4th one, and the 5th one. Just by paying a red, giving our creatures haste is massive, and I'll show you exactly why here in a bit. By paying 3 and a blue and making someone draw a card, and again, it's target player, so it can either be us or our opponent, that's huge too. And of course, by being able to get creatures out of graveyards onto the battlefield under its owner's control, keep in mind with that, is also massive as well. And this commander is of course especially effective when we can generate infinite mana of, all colors, and then utilize its abilities as many times as we want. And of course, there are plenty of ways to do that, and yeah, typically if you were to do that, you just be like, okay, I activate that 4th ability, target player draws a card an infinite number of times, and I mill my opponents out and they lose. And while of course that is an option, that's nowhere near as mean as we are going to be with this sticker strategy. Now again, if you somehow got your playgroup to agree to allow you to do this, you would also basically need them to agree to not concede, or just, even before the game starts, just, you can't concede at sorcery speed would be the exact kind of phrase that you need to say that they need to agree to. Because, yeah, if you generate infinite mana with Kenrith, you just essentially win. But yeah, if there's no conceding, well, you can do exactly what you need to do then with Kenrith. But first, let's just quickly go through some of the many ways out there to generate an infinite amount of mana. I mean, one very simple one utilizes cards like Dramatic Reversal, Icecrown Scepter, and Gilded Lotus. Dramatic Reversal is going to untap all non-land permanents you control, and Icecrown Scepter has, when it enters the battlefield, it may exile an instant card from your hand with converted mana cost 2 or less. Then by paying 2, we can tap and copy the exiled card, so yeah, basically we can just keep Dramatic Reversaling again and again and again. And of course, if we've got Gilded Lotus in play, we can tap to add 3 mana of any one color as many times as we want, utilizing that mana, to obviously activate Icecrown Scepter an infinite amount of times and generating infinite mana of all colors. So of course, that is one way we can pull this off. Another way might be with Deadeye Navigator and Peregrine Drake. Deadeye Navigator has Soul Bond as long as it's paired with another creature. Each of those creatures has pay 1 and a blue, exile this creature, return to the battlefield under your control. And then Peregrine Drake has, when it enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. So we essentially pay 2 mana to blink our Peregrine Drake, which comes back, and we, tap 3 more lands, just flip the mana, and then it untaps 5 lands. Cool, we can just keep doing this an infinite amount of times for infinite mana. And of course, because of Kenny, we can actually combo with Peregrine Drake in different ways, which includes something like Carrion Feeder and Biomancer's Familiar. Carrion Feeder, or basically any other free sacrifice outlet, is fantastic with this. This one has sacrifice a creature with a +1 counter on Carrion Feeder. And then Biomancer's Familiar is kind of like a training grounds. It says activate abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. So we use Carrion Feeder to sacrifice Peregrine Drake, we get it into our graveyard, then we utilize Kenny's ability to get it back out by just paying 3 mana instead of 5. Well, okay, I should say 2 and a black instead of 4 and a black. You know what I mean. Then Peregrine Drake comes back into play. We untap our lands. We do the same thing over and over again. Basically, infinite mana of all colors. Again, I should say infinite mana of all colors but black. But if we've got 2, swamps in play, then that'll work for us. In a somewhat similar way, there's Zerta the Dawnwaker and Composite Golem. Zerta is kind of like our Biomancer's Familiar. It says abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. So again, Kenny's ability to get a creature back from our graveyard now just costs 3 instead of 5. And because of that, Composite Golem combos with it then, sacrifice it, add Wooburg to your mana pool. So we sack the Golem, we get it back, we do this again and again and again, infinite mana of all colors but black. And then of course, obviously, we can just draw the rest of our deck to actually get, whatever kind of combo we want to actually just get full, mana of all colors, okay? Regardless, by also drawing essentially our entire deck, and yeah, we can just draw literally every single card that we need, we can then set ourselves up to again do our incredibly mean and terrible and awful play. So by drawing our entire deck and having infinite mana, yeah, our opponents really can't stop us because, well, if they try to, well, we're probably gonna have counter spells and we can just pay for those with our infinite mana. Regardless, the first card that we're gonna want to get into play is Intruder Alarm. It's an enchantment for 2 and a blue, and it says creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. And whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. Now, I will mention that actually, if you've got that Icecrown Scepter combo, you actually don't need this, but let's just assume that you don't have that specific combo going, you just have another way to generate infinite mana, okay? Regardless, this is an incredible combo piece. Again, when any creature comes into play, all creatures get untapped, and of course, there's plenty of ways to use and abuse this. And actually, I will mention that if we've got also, let's say Mana Dorks in this deck, we can go infinite with this, and with Kenny with a free sacrifice outlet, but regardless, let's just again assume that we've got another way to actually make infinite mana, okay? Though Kenny's ability to give our Mana Dorks haste can be really spicy as well and can really help us get to that point. Nevertheless, after we get Intruder Alarm in play, let's get into play the Beamtown Bullies. It has Vigilance and Haste, and it has tap target opponent whose turn it is puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard on the battlefield under their control. It gains haste, goaded at the beginning of the next end step, exile it. So essentially, this is a way to get a creature from our graveyard into play under an opponent's control. And of course, in combination with Intruder Alarm, well, we, tap Beamtown Bullies. We get a creature into play. Cool, we untap the Beamtown Bullies. We do it again. We can essentially just do this as many times as we want to. Well, again, I should say for the amount of creatures in our graveyard, but we'll talk about some ways to get further than that. Now, the other card that I'm going to talk about that you want to get into play is Putrid Imp. And yeah, this one actually works very well with the Beamtown Bullies, because this one says discard a card from your hand, Putrid Imp gains flying until end of turn. And of course, you can just utilize that as many times as you want. Now, obviously, any other kind of, discard outlet will work as well. But yeah, this free discard outlet is fantastic. So you can essentially just discard whatever cards you want, especially creatures that you want to give to your opponents with the Beamtown Bullies. And we'll talk about some of those here in a bit. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about one other very important piece before we actually pass our turn. Because next up, we're going to want to cast Repeated Reverberation, followed up by Worst Fears. Repeated Reverberation says, when you next cast an instant spell, cast a sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. So essentially, we get 2 extra copies of our next spell, which is going to be Worst Fears, which says you control target player during that player's next turn. Exile Worst Fears. So you see all cards that player could see and make all decisions for the player. So by copying this 3 times, again in a format like Commander, we've got 3 opponents, you've got 1 Worst Fears for each opponent, meaning that you get to control each other player during their next turn. Now, that being said, I will mention that there is another way to have this happen. If you actually utilize, Mindslaver or something like that, and you have got ways to get it back again and again and again, great, you can do that too. Regardless, let's just assume that we've got one of these ways to essentially control each of our opponent's next turn. And now with that setup complete, let's pass the turn. And on that next unlucky opponent's turn, we are going to be giving them Viscera Seer. And again, we'll do this by discarding it with Putrid Imp, putting it into our graveyard, utilizing the Beamtown Bullies to get it into play under that player's control, and when it comes into play again, Intruder Alarm triggers, and we untap Beamtown Bullies. Like Carrion Feeder, again, this can actually just be, basically any kind of a sacrifice outlet, essentially. So a free one like this one can be great. Anyways, sacrifice a creature, scry 1. Awesome. The main thing that is important is that we can utilize this to sacrifice our opponent's creatures, or maybe I should say creatures that our opponents are going to be getting from us. Because one of those creatures is going to be Carnival Carnivore. So again, discard it with Putrid Imp, get out with Beamtown Bullies, untap your commander, and of course, with that free sacrifice outlet in play, we can just sacrifice this as many times as we want to and keep getting it back into play under that opponent's control. So we get an infinite amount of triggers with that, and the opponent whose turn we are controlling is getting an infinite amount of tickets. Good for them, or us, or whatever, and we can also get an infinite amount of triggers to put stickers on non-land permanents we own. And since we are controlling that player's turn, again, we make all decisions for that player, and they are going to want to sticker everything they can. Now, there is another layer to this though, because sticker sheets have a limited amount of stickers on them. And actually, those cards that are stickered, keep those stickers as long as they are in a public zone, which includes, on the battlefield, in a graveyard, and even in exile. Basically, any place that you're allowed to just see the card. That being said, if they are put into a private zone, like, a hand or a library, those stickers return to the sticker sheet and they can be reapplied to other things. Just know that with our current setup, again, with any creature that we have, again, in our graveyard, we can give that opponent it an infinite amount of times. Meaning, of course, that, well, we're going to be scrying a ton with Viserys here, which is just lovely for that opponent that we're controlling, but also we get its ETB as many times as we want and whenever we want. So to ensure that we keep getting stickers back onto our sticker sheets, we're also going to be including Riftwing Cloudskate, which has, when it enters the battlefield, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So again, we can sticker something as much as we want to, but we're going to run out of stickers, and then when we do, well, we just bounce it back to that player's hand with Riftwing Cloudskate. Again, since that opponent's hand is not a public zone, all those stickers on that card then go back onto the sticker sheet. But now that opponent might be thinking, okay, well, you did sticker that card a ton, but okay, it's back to my hand now. Sure, with a couple of my lands, sure, you can replay it, but you can only do that a certain number of times. I'm gonna run out of mana at some point, right? Wrong, because we're gonna be giving that player, well, and ourselves too, an infinite amount of mana with Stadium Vendors. Stadium Vendors has, when it enters the battlefield, choose a player. That player adds 2 mana of any one color they choose. Again, we can get this out an infinite amount of times for that player, and then being that player, or should I say in control of that player, we can choose to, give that player an infinite amount of mana of all colors, and sure, while we're at it, we'll give ourselves an infinite amount of mana of all colors. Why not? Thank you very much, Stadium Vendors. So again, with the cards that we've gone over so far, we essentially can, play everything from our opponent's hand that we want to play, get them all into play, sticker them an infinite amount of times because we keep just, bouncing them back to that opponent's hand and replaying them and stickering them again. You see where this is going. And yeah, again, since we obviously have infinite mana again, well, we can just have that player draw essentially their entire library and, play all their, non-land permanents, and cool, awesome, yeah, they're in play. We can sticker all of them as many times as we want, and great. But that means that we're only stickering certain cards, and I want to sticker everything. I mean everything. Again, Wizards tried to make it so that you can only sticker your own non-land permanents, and again, now that I've, shown that we can sticker our opponent's things, well, we can also sticker things that aren't non-land permanents, like instants, sorceries, and yes, even lands. Yeah, your opponent's, Time Twister or Gaia's Cradle, those aren't safe either. Because now let me introduce you to a lovely card called Sultai Emissary. Sultai Emissary is a simple 1/1 that has, when it dies, manifest the top card of your library. And again, manifesting means that you put that card on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. You turn it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. So again, with our current setup, well, we can get this into play again and again and again, sacrificing it essentially as many times as we need to with Viserys here to have that player just turn their entire deck into manifest creatures, essentially. And then, of course, with our sticker combination, well, we can sticker those a lot as well. And yeah, okay, now we have to bounce things back to our hand. But of course, we're not done just yet, because we can ensure that we can just keep doing this as many times as we want to make sure that we're getting as much stickering on everything, including those lovely instant sorceries and lands that we want to. Now, of course, we can just, flip over the actual creatures that are manifested. Great, let's just do that, because again, with infinite mana, we can just easily do that. But then let's just bounce back, all the other manifested cards that aren't creatures back to our hand with, again, that Riftwing Cloudscape combo. Because then on our side, we're actually going to sacrifice our Putrid Imp, and yeah, we can probably either run, any other, sacrifice out that we need to, or any kind of removal spell that we need to actually get to our graveyard, or actually, we actually can sacrifice Viserys here to itself that we gave our opponent, get it back with Kenrith's ability, sacrifice Putrid Imp, then sacrifice the Viserys here to itself again, get in our graveyard, get them both back into play Beatdown Bullies under our opponent's control. Regardless, just know that our opponents have Putrid Imp now, okay? Or should I say again, the opponent that we are controlling, regardless. With all those cards back in our hand now, we discard all of them with Putrid Imp, and then we get Loaming Shaman from our graveyard into play under that lovely opponent's control, with Beantown Bullies. So, Loaming Shaman says when it enters the battlefield, target player shovels any number of target cards from their graveyard into their library, which then, of course, we can manifest back with Sultai Emissary. So, yeah, we can infinitely loop this as many times as we want. Stickering things left and right, stickering every single thing, even again, things that it should not be able to sticker. Now, you might be thinking, okay, with these manifested cards, you are actually just stickering the backside of the cards, and sure, okay, I mean, I guess that's probably technically correct on how you're supposed to sticker things. Sure, okay, good point there. But still, I mean, stickering the back of a card's still gonna, lower the value of it if you keep doing it enough times. When you're doing an infinite number of times, yeah, that's not gonna help the card. Regardless, let's now talk about a way to actually sticker the front of a land. And by a land, I mean every single land that player owns in their library. And we can do this with the help of an adorable creature like Arboreal Grazer. It has, when it enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So again, let's say we've done our manifest fun times. We actually just now say, okay, manifesting was fun, but yeah, let's discard those cards of Putrid Imp. Let's get them all back with Loaming Shaman into our library. Then with that infinite mana that we have, we can make Kenrith have that player, who we're controlling, draw their entire library. Then we give them Arboreal Grazer an infinite number of times to get every single land card from their deck into play. Then what we can do is utilize something like Kamal, Fist of Krosa. Now there's actually a couple of cards that can help like this, but the reason I'm bringing Kamal up is, well, it can also be a great way to combo with Intruder Alarm because we can actually make our own lands into creatures, and yeah, that can be just a great combo setup regardless. Know that it has pay a green, target land becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn, it's still a land. So we can turn all of our opponent's lands, and again, every single land in their library is now in play, into 1/1 creatures. Now those are still lands, but we can then utilize a lovely card called Darksteel Mutation. It says enchant creature. Enchanted creature is an insect artifact creature with base power and toughness 0/1 and has indestructible, and it loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. So with this, that opponent's 1/1 land ceases to be a land, and now it is just a 0/1 insect. So now, because it is no longer a land, we can sticker it to our heart's content. Or at least I should say the amount of stickers on the sticker sheet, because of course then we can just bounce Darksteel Mutation back to our hand. And actually, I'm not sure what the rules on this are going to be, because I don't think they really, thought that this situation would ever occur where someone turns a land into a creature, then into a 0/1 creature that is no longer a land, and then they sticker it. I'm not sure. I don't think the stickers would actually fall off that land. Regardless, it doesn't matter because we've got Darksteel Mutation back in our hand. We can then, Riftwing, Cloudskate, bounce that land back to the opponent's hand, get it back into play with Arboreal Grazer, get Darksteel Mutation back on it, and then sticker it again and again and again. Regardless, just know that now with this combination, we can sticker the front of our opponent's lands an infinite number of times. Which is a phrase I never imagined that I'd be saying ever, but here we are. Magic 2022. And again, all of these are completely legal moves. We are not breaking any Magic rules. Now, we probably are breaking the social contract again by, trying to destroy our opponent's, actual cards, by ruining them, by getting stickers on and off them an infinite number of times. The front and back of basically every single card except, okay, yes, instants and sorceries. Please let me know in the comments below if you can find a way to actually sticker the front of an instant or sorcery. I found ways, obviously, to do a lot of things, like stickering even lands on the front and the back. But yeah, instant sorceries on the front, I'm not sure if it's doable or not. Regardless, again, technically not breaking the social contract. Obviously, if you asked your playgroup ahead of time, be like, hey, can I do this? And if they, for whatever reason, again, said yes, then go for it. I don't know why they said yes, but go for it. That being said, obviously, you can then put that opponent out of their misery if you really want to, by ending the turn by just, having them draw one more card with Kenrith, and then that player loses because they've got no library and they lose after you stickered all their cards into oblivion. But then, of course, it's the next player's turn, and you get to do the exact same thing, because again, remember, we copied Worst Fears twice, and we control all of our opponent's turns on their next turn, so have fun with that for our next two opponents whose decks you are going to ruin with stickers. Again, legally ruin with stickers. That being said, again, there might be an even easier way to actually do this when we actually see Unfinity come out and all the cards in it. Because, yeah, we've only seen, I think, basically like 2 cards that deal with, getting tickets and stickers now at this point. Or at least, like, 2 cards that are legal in Eternal formats, which actually is pretty funny as well, because you could do this in Legacy, too. I mean, good luck trying to actually pull that off with all the other crazy things that are going off in Legacy. But yeah, I mean, Carnival Carnivore seems like a pretty effective way to do it, but of course there might be even more effective ways depending on what new sticker ticket cards come out in the future. Regardless, one last time, though this again is an entirely legal Magic play, do not do it unless your playgroup or those that you're playing with are okay with it. And again, I do not know why a player would be like, sure, you can sticker my cards an infinite number of times, but you never know. They might. It's kind of like if you're playing against a player that's eating like wings or something like that, and it's like sauce all over their fingers, and they're like, hey, I just cast Age of Treachery, I steal your permanent, now let me go grab that with my saucy finger hands and taking it, which technically is also a legal Magic play, but again, one that you should never make. And with that, this show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.